Have you tried the YouTube Music app? Do you think producers and labels are holding back on releases due to the closure of clubs and festivals? Exclusive, Dom Kane ditches Bitwig for GarageBand. During mixing, do you use the pink noise reference? When you use your Moog for basses, for example, do you put some VSTs to make them a bit wider? Do you have any experience with room acoustic measuring software? To an extent, yes, but equally no. Hey guys, welcome to the Kane audio vlog. It is Friday. It's time for another Ask Me Anything. Usual rules apply. Comment anything you want below this video and I'll get back to you in next week's video. Before I look at last week's video, there is definitely house admin that needs covering. First and foremost, release number 2 of my label 5302 recordings is out now. It is a beautiful EP called Fractures. It is from none other than Deadly Custard, who hopefully will give us a high five in the comments below. Check it out. It's brilliant. I'm just honestly the label I've been talking about for months and months, almost years, and we're now at the point where stuff is going to start coming out now. The stuff's actually going to happen. So yeah, it's really exciting times for me personally. Yeah, check it out. There'll obviously be a link below this video, I'm sure. I'm recording this video on a Thursday and I always hate doing this because I'm saying, yeah, there'll be a link below the video, but no link exists while I'm recording it and I'm always scared that something will go wrong. But yeah, 99% sure there'll be a link below this video. Yeah, check it out on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, whatever it is that takes your fancy. Yes, there is a couple more things on that to happen over the next couple of weeks, so watch this space. Yeah, I don't even know what else I can say on the matter other than just go check it out, because honestly it is awesome. It's such a good EP, from start to finish. There's just not a bad moment, and I hope you all like it as much as I do. Yeah, there we go. In other house admin, what else is there? I think that's basically it. That's really been the focus of this week. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. So let's move on, I suppose. I feel like there's something I've forgotten. I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm even more befuddled than normal this week because I've actually been out all day and I've just come back and gone, right, quickly hit record, let's go. So I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. I've not even had, normally I've had a couple of hours warm up. I know you wouldn't believe it by the crap that comes out my mouth, but normally I've spent a couple of hours doing some work and going, oh yeah, I'll mention this in the AMA today. Oh yeah, I'll mention this. None of it ever happens and I'm off on a tangent already. Anyway, let's move on. Let's have a look at last week's video. Starting at the top, Castronaut Music. Have you tried the YouTube Music app? I prefer it over Spotify. It's free with YouTube Premium, which everyone should have. Okay, I didn't even know there was one, if I'm honest. So clearly, no, I haven't tried it. I know a very good friend and colleague of mine who I work with regularly, remotely. He mentioned he got YouTube Premium, when's this? Probably last year. And he used it as a producer just to reference tracks, you know, so he produces for a lot of singer-songwriters and stuff, and so those singer-songwriters will come up to him and go, oh, I want a song to sound like whatever, X, Y, and Z. And so he'll then obviously look them up and listen to them and sort of mirror the style or whatever the technique they want. And he said he found that everything on YouTube Premium was just heavily distorted. Now, this could have been a glitch on his computer or phone or whatever it was he's using. It could have been a glitch just across the YouTube Premium at the time, but whatever it was enough for me to go, I won't even bother trying that out then. And I think he subscribed to it for all of about 5 days and then went, this is terrible, and came straight back out. So interesting that you say you prefer it over Spotify. I would like to know, why do you prefer it over Spotify? Because something I've always bigged Spotify up for in the past is discoverability of things. So, for example, there is a new EP out today by Deadly Custard. It's on a record label called 5302 Recordings. It's a fantastic EP. You should go and listen to it now. You should probably just pause this video now, actually. I'll wait. It's probably long enough. And in that, I can put a couple of tracks from the EP onto the 5302 Electronica playlist that I do on Spotify, and you guys can click the link below this video and go to that playlist and listen to the new EP from Deadly Custard that is out today on 5302 Recordings. So that's something that you're unable to do on, for example, Apple Music. I can put together a private playlist on Apple Music, and I can listen to that myself, and that's great, but I can't share it with you guys watching this video. So I'm hoping that you probably can do something like that with YouTube. The other thing with YouTube, and actually, you know what, so if someone watching this knows the answer, please tell me, but I like when someone says to listen to a piece of music, the last thing I ever think of is to go onto YouTube and watch a video, because video and music are two different things. There's a big overlap, but for example, when I was putting together my album, I kind of had an idea of it'd be nice to have a little thing on YouTube, but it never really occurred to me to have a full music video. So I wonder, like with other music, like, I don't know, it just seems like is the user interface different? Does it look different? Or do you have a video on your screen and then a recommended thing down the right? I guess those are kind of important things, because like I say, with Spotify, the big upsell for me with Spotify is the fact that I can see, users also like this person, and I can click on that person and then just skim through their most popular tracks and then quickly discover someone else who maybe sounds similar or whatever. And on top of that, I can then go, I like that, I'll save it, chuck it on a playlist, and then send that playlist to a friend, and they can save that playlist or follow that playlist or whatever, and it just makes discovering new music all the better. And I think, I know we've talked about Spotify a fair amount on these videos, and I think it's quite important to keep that conversation going in a way, because until somebody else comes out with a platform that does all of that and more, maybe, but at least all of that, then I think Spotify will be king when it comes to music apps, or music streaming services, because no matter how much you like or dislike Spotify and their business model or their pence per play, or whatever your issue is, and I know a lot of people have a lot of issues with Spotify, and we hear that week in, week out on these videos, but I think until someone can come out with something that competes with that in terms of discoverability, then I think all bets are off, basically. That's how I see it. And I think I might have ranted about this probably several times before. MySpace was one of the greatest social media pages ever. Imagine a world where you could look at someone's Facebook profile and hear their favorite top 10 tracks or whatever, and then you could also see their top 10 friends and go, I see what they like, and you just end up discovering all sorts of awesome stuff. I don't know. So yeah, that's the important bit for me. So there we go. If there's a bunch of questions I've probably asked amongst that rant, so please answer below. Rod Marconi, positive, high five. Hey Dom, do you think producers and labels are holding back on releases due to the closure of clubs and festivals, or does your release schedule remain uninterrupted? I think there are probably lots of labels out there who are holding back. Yes, I think there are lots and lots of labels. And not only that, there are lots of artists and managers of artists as well, probably, who are telling the labels and or artists or whatever, don't release that yet. We need an audience or whatever, because, you know, look, there's a lot of club music out there. You know, we all know the 8, 9, 10-minute bangers that are basically minute and a half, 2 minutes of intro and whatever, and that's great for DJs. Talking about Uninterrupted. Sorry, I got interrupted there. So I think for me personally, my schedule has been mostly uninterrupted. But if you remember my album that came out this year in September, it's available now. There'll be a link below. Check it out on Spotify. While you're on Spotify, go and check out Deadly Custard's new EP. It's called Fractures, and it's amazing. It's a 5-track EP and just takes you on a journey. Go check it out. So my album, I had originally intended to come out in April of this year, and then clearly by February I was thinking maybe now's not the best time, and then by March I was thinking no, that's definitely not going to happen. So it all hit the fan. So it's kind of impacted my schedule, but as chance would have it, I've also kind of started veering off the 4/4 techno plodder type thing, at least temporarily this year anyway. So that was kind of intentional. So my schedule's kind of just coming back into play again now. So hopefully I'll start releasing a bit more going into next year now. So personally it's not affected me in any major way, but you know, you got to remember there's a lot of DJs out there who almost entirely rely on club and festival crowds to hear their music. There isn't another outlet for them. So, you know, and this is one of the long-standing sort of issues that we've all had as electronic music producers. I'm sure everyone watching this video has the exact same question of, you know, if I wrote the world's most amazing banger of a track that would just everybody instantly falls in love with, what do I do with it? Where do I go? How do I get everybody to listen to it? You know, and that's a really difficult question. And for 99% of us producer DJs out there, the answer has always been, well, give a copy to DJs that are doing the club circuits, the festival circuits, whatever. Get it in their hands and spend years building up a promo list of people, you know, of DJs that play to big crowds on a regular basis. And, you know, you want them to be dropping your record on release date or around release date or in the lead up to release date, whatever, as part of your marketing campaign. Well, if all the clubs and festivals and everything around the world have shut down, then none of those DJs are really giving anybody any exposure, and in which case the promo list is kind of worthless, and in which case you're back to bedroom production stuff. So it's going to be kind of a weird one for a lot of people. So I should imagine there's a lot of people out there who really just have binned their whole schedule this year. I chuckle, but it's more of a nervous laughter than anything else. It's quite a sad thing, I think. However, there's also been a lot of people who've cashed in on this and done the whole live streaming thing and all of that. It's not my bag, I must admit. Certainly DJ sets live on as a stream for me is just not something I want to be doing. But then I'm not first and foremost a DJ, so you know, the DJing side of stuff is more just I do it for the love of having fun with the crowd. But I guess there's probably a lot of labels who've taken advantage of things and opportunities and whatever, and are probably doing very well out of it. But yeah, it's I think it's just a tricky one for everyone this year, really. You know, fingers crossed, and these vaccines start coming into effect, and then hopefully, I want to say by Easter, but let's be realistic here, by maybe the summer we could start seeing nightclubs open. That would be really, really nice. You know what would be really nice? I'd like to go to Ibiza next summer if everything opens up. Yeah, there we go. So that's that. Andrew Hollis, positive, high five, exclusive. Dom Kane ditches Bitwig for GarageBand. You read it here first. So for anyone that doesn't know, I did a challenge for Sonic Academy, and they did an episode of what they call Top Door, and they basically gave 5 seasoned producers a copy of a workstation they'd never used before and said, do these things in this list. I can't remember what it was now. It was things like save a folder to your favorites, create a MIDI clip, import some audio, export a master, blah blah blah, write a track, basically, use a sample. Yeah, and I was given GarageBand, which, so my expectations were super low. I thought it was going to be the worst thing on earth. It wasn't the worst thing on earth. I have since watched the video, which went live yesterday on Sonic Academy's YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen that, then go check that out. Yeah, I feel sorry for the guy that got Fruity Loops. Yeah, it looked like he really struggled with that. So yeah, it's quite a funny video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Fanfan87, salut Dom, positive, high five. Completely agree with you on Spotify is the only option, and the only way to be accidentally discovered by the people is Spotify. I understand the rules of what you described, and I perfectly know I shot myself a bullet by leaving the biggest streaming platform. However, I believe no platform will ever compete with Spotify. No alternative will be born if we don't make an effort to make this possible. Other options will not be a thing. It's like Google, I guess. We can't have an alternative without spending time making this alternative possible. I just want to try to convince myself that another way is possible according to my artistic project. Okay, I guess I kind of agree, and to an extent, yes, but equally no. Look, we had MySpace, and MySpace was awesome, and Facebook came along and everyone went, ooh, what's this shiny new thing? And now look at MySpace. We had Facebook, and that was all doing its thing, and then Instagram came along, and then TikTok came along, and what else have we had? Oh, we had that, what was that 7-second video? Oh, Vine. You know, all of these things have sort of come and gone and tried new things and whatever. Some of them stayed, some of them didn't stay. The point is that alternatives do appear out there, but if they're not better or at least as good as the top dog, then, you know, nobody's going to switch. So, and if I'm totally honest, I think if we all started pulling our stuff from Spotify, then it really wouldn't make any difference, because the major labels are committed to Spotify and they've signed the contract. So the artists that are on major labels don't even have a say in it. So they're going to be on Spotify whether they want to be or not. And so we're not really feeding Spotify very much. And I think if everybody kind of jumped ship and came out of Spotify, or anyone who could left Spotify, then Spotify would just shrink. But I don't think it would die off, and that's kind of the point. And I don't think that helps competition arrive either. If anything, it might put people off. You know, I always learnt in university, in a business module I once did, I remember being told the best place to open a coffee shop is on a street where there are already coffee shops. And that never really made sense, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because if you go on a street where there's already a coffee shop, then there's already people going there for coffee, and if they see a different coffee shop, they'll go to that one as well. And if your prices are better, or your coffee tastes nicer, or whatever, I say with a Starbucks cup in my hands, you know, then you're going to go there. So I think it's quite important that actually we maybe stick around with Spotify and see what happens. And yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I'm personally a fan of Spotify, and I as much as I wish they did pay more pence per play, and I don't agree with some of their business model attributes, but I also feel the same about Apple, but I have an iMac because it is the best computer out there for me. I feel the same about a lot of Microsoft products, but I still have a lot of Microsoft products. I feel the same about lots of companies, but I feel the same about Starbucks, who don't pay any tax, or just in case I'm saying something libel there, to my understanding and recollection, don't pay any tax in the UK. They may have paid a couple of grand in the UK, but let's be honest, they're a multi-billion-dollar industry. They can afford to pay some tax in the UK. But I'm drinking a Starbucks right now because I'm a sellout. At the end of the day, I saw that I wanted a coffee and a sandwich, and the place that I was driving past at the time was a Starbucks. I'm not gonna starve myself just because I don't like Starbucks. And I realised that I am part of the problem. Nobody needs to remind me that I am part of the problem. There, I hold my hands up to it. Anyway, was my turn to complain. So, one, during mixing, do you use the pink noise reference? No, I don't. I don't use any noise reference. In fact, I barely use any references at all. I use my ears. If I like it, I keep it. If I don't like it, I change it. That's my entire attitude to mixing, and similarly to mastering as well. So I'm aware of the pink noise reference, and for anybody that has not heard of it, I believe, is it that I could get this wrong now actually, as I start to run it through my head, the pink noise reference I think is the one where you're basically referencing the loudness of certain frequency bands and using that to sort of fill the space. I feel like your ears should be able to do that anyway, and I feel like just playing a track, you should be able to hear, if you've got decent monitor speakers in a decent room, blah 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 blah, then you should really be able to hear a track that sounds good because it sounds good. And if you play a different track and then you play this whatever track and you just compare, you don't need to even compare. You should naturally just go, holy shit, the bass sounds incredible on this, or sounds terrible on this, or whatever. If you do want a track that sounds good, I recommend an EP by Deadly Custard. It's out today, available on Spotify, Apple Music, and you name it. Check it out. Number two. When you use your Moog for basses, for example, do you put some VSTs to make them a bit wider, not 100% mono? So, yes, in fact, I have. I'm not sure if you can see, I think I'm in the way of that. But I have. I don't know if that's in view. I can't see the camera, but it's a TC Electronics Hall of Fame 2. So my Sub 37 goes through that at the minute. Sometimes I bypass it because I don't want the reverb, but 99% of the time I'll have that reverb in the chain before it even hits the computer, because I like a bit of reverb, and certainly for my kind of music and whatever, I like everything being slightly wet. So the reverb will somewhat widen a sound naturally anyway. So that's something I tend to do. Other than that, I mean, I don't use any sort of stereo expanders or anything like that, and certainly not on basses. I like my basses being mono. I know we live in a world where basses can be stereo, and that's actually okay now, but I'm too much of a stickler for old things. So I still make my basses mono. But what I'll generally do is maybe apply a little bit of reverb to the higher frequencies, and that just gives the illusion of having some width then. So there we go. Also, really happy to see all the people coming into these AMAs from 20 minutes to almost an hour. Amazing. Cheers, Francois. Cheers. It's kind of, look, as I've been saying for months, this lockdown is going to change things, and I've sort of said, viewing numbers have come down, and then they went up again, and then they came down again, and who knows where we are, but we'll just keep going as long as people keep asking questions. Finally, Mitch Brown. Hi Dom, great vlog as usual, positive, high five. I have a question about room acoustics. Do you have any experience with room acoustic measuring software? I've been thinking of upgrading my monitors, but feel the room acoustics probably want sorting before I spend good money on some monitors. My studio is very small, has some acoustic paneling and some bass traps, but was thinking of taking a more scientific approach. So, I've kind of discussed this. In fact, I did, if you look on this YouTube channel, I did building the studio, and I think it's part 3. Where I talk about the acoustics. So there very much is a scientific method to it, but I also sort of warn people to be careful on what you read on the internet, because I know my previous studio that I built from the ground up was my first proper built studio, and I remember looking into acoustic treatment and insulation because I was building internal walls inside an existing building and whatever, so I wanted to get it right. And I remember looking it all up, and just the sheer amount of people I saw arguing on the internet over millimeters of depth or grams per square inch square meter, cubic meter even, of insulation, and people talking about intricate little frequency differences and fluctuations and stuff, and it took me a long time of going, oh, right, well, I need to do this then. And, oh, God, well, oh, wow, I have to get this right then. Before I eventually realised that actually the science will only really take you so far. Having done a degree in engineering as well and studied things like acoustics and physics, you learn that, you've got things like absorption rates and reflection rates and things on different materials for your walls and whatever. And look, you can calculate all of these things as scientific as it gets, but the fact is the moment you put a sofa in the room, or you sit down on a chair, or have a human body, all of that gets thrown out the window. Well, not all of it, but it changes. So you kind of need to take everything with a pinch of salt. So the first things you want to look for is first reflections. Get those sorted first. Your first reflections are the old trick of putting a mirror on the wall. Get a friend to hold a mirror up on the wall and slide the mirror across the wall. And the moment you can see your monitor speaker in the mirror, that's a first reflection point, which means sound waves come out of the speaker, hit the wall at that point, bounce off and go directly to your face. You don't want those first reflections ever hitting your face. Basically, you want direct sound waves from the speakers to hit you in the face. Beautiful. But if you're getting that first reflection as well, it's going to be almost equally loud as it is in the monitor speaker. And this is the weird thing, is you're better off in almost an echoey room than you are in a smaller room. And that's the reason why, is because in a small room, all the sound waves bouncing off all the walls, the floor, the ceiling are hitting your ears at almost the same time and almost the same volume. So it gets everything way more confusing. And that's before you even start with things like resonance, standing waves and things like that. So it can get very messy. So being in a small room, I mean, this studio, and I talked for too long, my camera ran out. Yeah, so this room is not a particularly big room, but it's about as small as I'm willing to take it. And it's about as small as physics will allow before it just gets really messy. So I would say first thing to sort out is your first reflections. Get those sorted first. With that, you're going to fix probably high frequency stuff. That's kind of easy to fix because it's basically just first reflections. And so that will help with things like just the liveliness of a room or the sound of the room. And then the next thing to fix is any heavy resonance points. So that, I mean, again, you can kind of sit down with the calculator and work out where your standing waves are going to be. But basically, going on an average sized room, where basically if your wall, if one of your walls is say between 2 and 4, or 2.5 and 3.5 meters, you're probably going to get an issue around 60 and 120 hertz ish, maybe 150, maybe 110, but those are generally the areas that most people have a bit of an issue. And that's a resonance point or a standing wave, where basically the audio wave has come out of the speaker and is coming in this direction. It hits a wall and bounces back, and it's hitting itself at the same location. And of course, because sine waves go up +1 and down -1, if they hit each other at a -1 point, then they cancel each other out. If they hit each other at a +1 and a -1, then they cancel each other out, and you get a dead spot where everything just sounds like almost like someone's taken your headphones off and moved them around. It just is like a weird stereo thing. Or I say kind of worse, yeah, probably worse, is if they hit at +1 and +1, or -1 and -1, and in which case they're twice as loud, and you'll get a really boomy, usually bassy area, just because of the physics of physical waves, basically, that is generally in the lower frequencies. So those are the other things to kill. So there's a bunch of ways of trying to get rid of them, bass traps being the obvious one, corners being an obvious one. So if you can get like a tri-trap in a corner, then that usually helps. Also, the biggest thing, and this is something I sort of covered in the building the studio thing, the main thing that I did was move my speakers and move my sub. You'll find that some speakers, if you press them up against the wall, they sound great. Pull them 6 inches, 12 inches away from the wall, and suddenly they sound terrible. And that can be for various reasons. It can be because they may be rear ported or front ported, or the shape of the port, or the distances, or the frequencies. There's just a whole host of reasons why that can happen. But it is worth experimenting with that. So when it comes to room software, Room EQ Wizard is the one I recommend for trial and error stuff. And then SonarWorks Reference 4 is also recommended sometimes. So I've stopped using that, but I'll start at the start. So Room EQ Wizard, basically, once you've set everything up and calibrated your microphone and your sound card and whatever, it just does a big frequency burst, and it'll measure echoes and resonance points and amplitudes and whatever. And it'll give you a rough idea of where your nasty problems are. So it'll show you, like, you know, when you get the right graph, it'll show you maybe 110 hertz, and you'll just have a huge spike or a huge dip. And then it's a case of kind of, I like that, because the test, once you've done your first test, to do another one takes 10 seconds. So you can do your first test, and in fact now in the latest version you can do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tests, and then do an average, which is a good idea, because sometimes you might have knocked the microphone, or it might be held in a different place, or you might have just touched something or whatever. So yeah, it's worth doing that, and say run 5 tests and then do an average and save that graph, and then move your speakers closer or further from the wall and do the exact same test 5 times and average that, and then compare the 2 graphs, and you might find that dip has gone, or you might find it's even worse. And then same again if you move your speakers further apart or closer in together. If you have a sub, then 100%, you know, this was the issue that I had in my part 3 of the studio build, was that my sub, for some reason, when it was in the middle of the room, there was an issue. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't a crazy bad issue. Then when I went to the right side of the room, that issue just got worse. And then if I went to the left side of the room, for some reason it fixed itself. So that's what I did. I just left it on the left hand side. And being a sub, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of, you know, it's not very directional bass. So yeah, so I think there's hopefully a lot of tips in there for you, but I recommend getting Room EQ Wizard for that, because it's just quick and easy. And don't get me wrong, none of these things, and this is the other thing, is, you know, you're talking about getting the room right before you get the speakers in. That's absolutely the thing to do. You know, and in fact, I never truly appreciated that until I built my previous studio, because the sound quality of that room was just light years apart from anything else I'd ever been in, more by luck than judgment. But that made me realize that actually the room makes a huge difference. When you get the sound of the room right, then your monitors really come alive. So yeah, I'd like to say Room EQ Wizard is great. It's free as well, which is brilliant, and run some basic tests. But, you know, again, take it all with a pinch of salt as well, because, you know, unless you're using a really expensive calibrated test mic and, you know, everything is immaculate, then really, you know, you kind of have to take all the results with a pinch of salt. You're never going to get a room where it's just a perfect flat line. And in fact, even if you go into commercial studio spaces and stuff, they're very, very rarely ever going to be a flat line completely. So don't think, oh my God, this is never going to work. At the end of the day, and I always have to remind myself, you know, my first ever records were all made on some crappy secondhand hi-fi that I'd just thrown together and on a crappy PC in a crappy room with no acoustic treatment. So, you know, it doesn't mean you can't produce music. It just means that there are limitations, basically. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. I highly recommend it. But the thing is, those, you know, you talk about you want to spend some money on some decent monitors. Hopefully, if you've got your room and everything set up perfectly, then replacing those monitors should be fine. But you then might want to just calibrate and test again up against the wall, away from the wall, maybe 100 mil, and then same again 200 mil, and just see if it makes a difference. It might not make a difference, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes it makes a massive difference. Just that very slight movement can make a world of difference, because, you know, the frequencies we're dealing with are usually low frequencies, and they're such huge waves, but you might be just on the cusp of a peak or a trough, and in which case just moving it to the side slightly or whatever can make a world of difference. Hopefully that helps. That, my friends, is it for this week. I can't even see the camera. I don't know if I'm going blind or if this room's getting bigger or it's the bright lights or what. But thank you very much for watching this video. Again, please do like, comment, subscribe, get involved. And if you want to get a high five in next week's video, comment the word oil, because there's a video here that says, which oil do we use for our track cars and why? There we go. Not even I'm going to watch that one, to be honest. Oil, and you'll get a high five in next week's video. I'll see you same time next week. Go check out Deadly Custard's EP. It's available now on 5302 Recordings, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever you want to use. Go check it out. See you soon. Cheers.